Hello and welcome to Tonalist Painting by M. Francis McCarthy. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy. And the painting we're going to be looking at today is called Dusk Path, and it is an 8 by 10. We did the study for this painting last week, and today we're discussing the 8 by 10. I'm a little bit late. I was actually going to bail on you guys altogether because I had to spend yesterday, which is normally my day off, cutting up trees and grinding them up with the chipper and doing manly stuff like that. So I didn't have time to do a blog post or a video. But today is actually a holiday here in New Zealand, and it is the Queen's birthday, so happy birthday, Queen Elizabeth II. Many happy returns to you. And because of that, and because a bit wiped from all the work I did yesterday, I haven't gone to the studio yet. And I thought, well, I guess we'll just take care of you guys. We know you have needs. So I'm pretty happy with this painting. I like it's a motif I've done quite a few times in different ways and shapes and forms. And the actual photo, as I think I mentioned in the bit about part of my last blog post, it's an unexceptional photo. It's actually the tail end of a bike trail, and it's just some cool tree shapes, and that's really that, and the contrast and the color. Now I've injected the contrast and the color, and about the only thing I'm getting from the photos is some rough guide to the composition, and more that is actually the main thing that I really use the photos for, is to keep changing up the composition. I mean, it's just well, even then I tend to favor compositions that are quite similar to each other. So it seems to me if you're painting strictly from the imagination, you'd almost always be doing the same lump of trees in the same spot, the same little pool in the front, and the same this and the same that. And my work's already got a very self-similar quality across the paintings I do, so using photographs is a way that I can inject some variance into the proceedings. But so much of what I do is not relying on the photographs. To a large degree, the coloration of the landscape, the skies, all these things are coming from other places than my initial photo that I took out in nature. And I've written about using photos properly tons of times, so if you're interested in that, all you really need to do is dig through my blogs, and you'll see it. Maybe type the word photo in, and you'll probably get. I have lots of opinions about this because I do think it's one of the main places so many modern painters fail, is they don't even see it. They don't even realize that the way that they are looking at and perceiving a photograph. And even knowing it, you can still mess up, and I still do all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm just wrapping up. I'm doing a series of 5 right now, and they're all fairly large paintings. Well, actually the smallest is 11 by 14, which doesn't seem very large compared to an 18 by 24, but I have stopped myself from doing any 8 by 10s or anything in that size, and so the smallest that I allowed myself to do was an 11 by 14, and I'm pretty happy with them. I'd say, actually, I think the 11 by 14 might be the weakest of the lot. I feel the 1824 I did is pretty dang good, pretty cool, and I did a 1622 that I think is really, really good, and it's a motif that I've painted several times as a 5 by 7, and then I did once as a 10 by 14. And actually, that 10 by 14 is here in my office at home, my home office, and I look at it all the time. I think this 1824 stands up real well. It's different, and that's desirable. Although you can tell it's the same scene that's been painted, and I do enjoy revisiting motifs. It's almost, if you really you're watching what I do now. I mean, stroke by stroke by stroke. It's impossible to absolutely duplicate a painting, even not to mention stroke for stroke, but even to get the shapes the same or this or that the same. It's just so many variables involved, and I mean it's a process that is actually built up of thousands and thousands of individual movements at different times and in different states of mind. And this is one of the reasons why I'm pretty cool with revisiting motifs over and over, because the painting's going to be different. I'm different. So many things are different. Anyway, what are we going to talk about in the blog post today? I think I'm going to talk a bit about how paintings succeed or fail on the big shapes, which sounds kind of boring, but trust me, it's not. It's not, you know. You can futz around with the little bits all you want, and anyway, if you're interested in that, check out the blog post that this video will be attached to, and you can always get to the blog if you're just sailing around on YouTube. It's at you just go to landscapepainter.co.nz and you'll see it's the 100 Days of Tonalism blog. I know that's getting to be 39 days ago, but this is the thing. I've had other blogs, so that's the blog that I've had the most hits and attention on, and mostly because that's the blog I put the most effort into, especially with that 100 days in a row of blog posts. Built up a pretty decent following, and so actually when I was done with that, I thought I was actually going to take some time off and actually hunker down and get better at playing guitar, but that didn't happen. I do music, which you can probably get to that through my same landscapepainter.co.nz website. There's, I think, the links to my music sites and things like that. I mean, the music for me is more of a hobby and something I do for enjoyment. And I was especially into that back when I was making my living as a visual artist, and just really didn't feel like doing visual art. Every day at the end of the day after having used that part of my brain to make money for 8 hours or more. So anyway, I think I was talking about these. I've just completed a series of big paintings. Oh yes, and so I'm looking through I've composited some things in advance. Because usually I was doing 10 in a series, but since I've moved up to larger sizes, I thought it would be wise to cut that in half. And I think that was a good decision, because I'm pretty much done, and it's been about 3 weeks, which is great. That's a decent turnover. And while not every painting is super awesome, I've got some good work, and I'm happy, and what I do is I just keep going, and I'll let the paintings that I'm not as thrilled about, I let them hang around for a while. Sometimes I see ways to fix them, or sometimes maybe I'm just not getting it. People like them, and they'll buy them, If they're really deplorable, of course, I've been in the habit of fixing up those sorts of issues, even in the process of doing the painting. If some huge compositional element seems out of place or it hits me, whereas in the past I might have just let it go, I'll crank up Photoshop and I'll start dragging some trees around, or do what I got to do to get my head straight and get that painting right while I can. That's not to say that I'm always able to save everything. I just sometimes the painting is going to be the way it is. You just got to roll with it. And the best thing to do is always keep moving forward. So I'm looking at these shots I've composited, and some of them I'm going, well, you know what, that's got issues, man. It's got issues. And so I'm recropping, I'm reconfiguring. I'm doing all this before I paint. So, that's the best part of getting older and more experienced, is that you do learn more and more what's going to work and how to listen to that intuition, that voice inside telling you that things aren't going to work. Anyway, see, we're getting close to the end. Hey, thanks for joining me today, and we should be back next week with a whole nother motif, a whole nother painting, so check that out. If you want to see more of my work, go to landscapepainter.co.nz. Meanwhile, take good care and stay out of trouble.